It is 1:23 a.m. In the control room of Chernobyl Reactor 4, the bells of hell are ringing. Power levels are spiraling out of control. Panic-stricken eyes turn to one man, Chief Operator Alexander Akimov. Before him sits that red button labeled AZ-5, the emergency shutdown system. His entire life of training, his entire career tells him one thing: push that button. It is the last resort to prevent catastrophe. To understand how this moment happened, we have to go back just a few hours, to that safety test where everything went terribly wrong. The plan was simple on paper. If the power goes out, how much longer can the reactor's turbines power the emergency pumps? They were going to measure just that. But due to a series of delays and miscommunications, this complex test fell to the night shift, the crew with the least knowledge about the reactor's quirks. The reactor was already in an unstable state. Power levels were far below what was needed for the test. Under pressure from Deputy Chief Engineer Anatoly Dyatlov, the operators took a gamble to raise the power again. They disabled most of the reactor's safety systems and pulled almost all of the 211 control rods out of the core. They didn't know it, but they had just unchained a sleeping dragon. This is where the deadly secret lying at the heart of all Soviet RBMK reactors comes into play. Think of an RBMK reactor like a dragon that is constantly trying to explode. The control rods are the water hoses you stick into the dragon's mouth. They cool the reaction, they calm it down. At Chernobyl, there were exactly 211 of them, but Soviet engineers, to cut costs, had made a fatal mistake. At the tip of every hose, instead of water, they had strapped a canister of gasoline. These were the graphite tips. Normally, when the hoses are already in the dragon's mouth, this isn't a problem. But that night, the operators had pulled almost all the hoses out to provoke the dragon further. When they pressed the AZ-5 button, all 211 hoses went back down the dragon's throat at once. But what went in first? Not the water, the gasoline. Instead of extinguishing the power, they ignited hell. You know what the worst part was? They knew. The Soviet nuclear industry knew about this flaw. In 1983, at another RBMK plant in Lithuania, a similar incident occurred, and disaster was narrowly avoided. Scientists were screaming about it. Reports were slammed onto desks. But for those sitting in warm offices in Moscow, these reactors were a symbol of Soviet power, and no report could be allowed to stain that symbol. So that critical information was locked in a drawer and the key was swallowed. The operators at Chernobyl were never told that their emergency button could actually be a detonation button. They were sent to their deaths, unaware they were wielding a weapon that would betray them. And so, we return to that moment. 1:23:40 a.m. Chief Operator Alexander Akimov pressed the AZ-5 button without hesitation. It was what he had to do. It was the procedure. 4 seconds later, power levels surged off the charts. 3 seconds after that, a massive steam explosion blew the 1,200-ton reactor lid into the air, spewing radioactive material miles into the atmosphere. The Chernobyl disaster wasn't an accident. It was the result of ignored science, prioritized pride, and a system that stabbed its operators in the back at the very moment they trusted it most. That button wasn't there to save them. It was there to doom them.